Hey, I'm Jeremy, and we're going to take a look at the Sinbad character from the Unmatched system of games. So the Sinbad fighter is part of the original Unmatched set, Battle of Legends Volume 1. Now, I'll tell you that I didn't know a whole lot about Sinbad before this. I knew that he was apparently a comedian and he fought Popeye. He was a fighter, pirate, sailor, went on voyages. So what we have with Sinbad is going to be Sinbad and the Porter with a health of 15 for Sinbad, health of 6 for the Porter, with a move of 2, kind of, because his special ability, when you maneuver, you may move your fighter's +1 space for each voyage card in your discard pile. And you'll see there are going to be some other things going on with the voyage cards. But before I get into the specific cards of Sinbad's deck, I'm going to go over some general things about Sinbad's deck, which is different and interesting. The first thing is that there are no straight up defense cards in Sinbad's deck. He has a bunch of versatiles, and those versatile cards are what you are going to have to use as your defense cards. So don't burn through all of your versatiles with attacks hoping that some defense comes, because there won't be any coming. So looking at Sinbad's cards here, all of these Sinbad specific attack cards are all one of the voyages that he went to. And we have a theme here that as Sinbad goes to these different voyages, he becomes more and more powerful. They all have an attack of 2, which seems kind of weak until you start looking at the during combat, that this card's value is +1 for each other voyage card in your discard pile. Voyage to the Cannibals with the Root of Madness. This is the standard +1 for each voyage card. With the after combat, you may move Sinbad up to 2 spaces. Voyage to the Valley of the Giant Snakes. Addition to the +1, look at your opponent's hand. Voyage to the City of the King of Serendib. Once again, the usual effect, plus draw 1 card. Voyage to the City of the Man-Eating Apes. The +1 plus deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. Voyage to the Creature with Eyes Like Coals of Fire. The usual effect, and your opponent discards 1 random card. Voyage to the Island That Was a Whale. After combat, Sinbad recovers 2 health in addition to the regular effect. And Voyage Home, which has that usual effect, and take all other voyage cards from your discard pile and add them to your hand. Okay, let's talk about these voyage cards. So as you play them, as we established, you get to boost your maneuver. There are 7 of these cards. So you could get to a point where you have a movement of 9. That's absurd. The way that this is worded on both his character card and on these cards is it's for each other voyage card in your discard pile. Okay, now that means any way that it ends up in your discard pile. Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to play it. If one of these cards ends up in your discard pile due to someone's card effects, that could be from you having to randomly discard a card into your discard pile. It could be from you choosing one, if that's what it is. It could be from your opponent choosing one, if that's what it is. If that goes in there, it's in your discard pile and you get the bonuses. You can also, if you have more than 7 cards at the end of your turn, you could choose to discard one of these and get it in your discard pile and use the bonus on it that way. You will notice, before you start going to the obvious place that you think this would go, was that these cards do not have a boost value outside of the Voyage Home, which has a boost of 1. You cannot use a card with no boost value to boost movement. So you cannot put these in your discard pile by boosting. And then we also have to talk about Voyage Home. Voyage Home takes all other Voyage cards from your discard pile and add them to your hand. Well, you may be like, well, why would you do that? Because if you pull them all out of your discard pile, now you're losing your bonus. They're only like starting off with a 2 attack again, and you're moving your movement back down. Yeah, but if you got a lot of them in there, you suddenly get a lot of attack cards back. You could also do this at a point where you have a high card count, and you could end up having to discard cards back into it, and you can end up discarding some of those back into there, so you wouldn't necessarily have all of them gone there. But it gives you a chance to be able to reuse these cards. And being able to reuse these cards could be a big deal if you are running low on your deck. Okay, going through more of Sinbad's cards here. We have Toil and Danger, which are versatile cards. There are 4 of these. Move Sinbad up to 3 spaces. Versatile of 3. These are the only Sinbad-specific versatile cards. And then we have the only scheme cards in the deck. There are exactly 2, and they are both the same thing. Riches Beyond Compare. Draw 3 cards. So that is the only scheme cards that you have. Sinbad is not a schemer. Porter does not have a lot of cards specific to him. He just has this attack of 3 card. By Fortune and Fate, after combat, draw 2 cards. Going into the any cards, there is exactly one, and I don't mean like one type of card, but one card that there's one of for an attack that isn't any. That is Commanding Impact, an attack of 5, draw 1 card. A lot of card draw here for Sinbad. That could be good or bad. We're now getting into the remaining of the Ennies, which are all versatile. Outside of that one, Commanding Impact, they're all versatile. Versatile of 4, Exploit, draw 1 card. Leap Away, versatile of 4. If you won the combat, choose one of the fighters in the combat and move them up to 4 spaces. Versatile of 3, Momentous Shift. If your fighter started this turn in a different space, this card's value is 5 instead. You'll recognize a number of these as they are kind of standard cards that a lot of the characters have. Versatile of 2, Feint, cancel all effects on your opponent's card. And Regroup, versatile of 1. After combat, draw 1 card. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards instead. So, things that we see here in Sinbad's deck. As we mentioned earlier, no defense-specific cards. You have only the 2 scheme cards, and those scheme cards just let you draw cards. You do not get to deal any damage or do any maneuvering or anything with the scheme cards. So that's a little bit different. The bulk of Sinbad's attacks, of his attack-specific cards, are going to be those Voyage cards, and you have to play more of them for them to get value up. So really you need to use some of those Voyage cards pretty early, even if you're not getting a lot out of them, just to be able to bring up the attack value on them further. Because you need to get a few of them in your discard pile so that they can start hitting more, and also so you can get the boost on your movement, being able to get the boost on your movement. If Sinbad gets a bad draw where like his Voyage cards are all late in the deck, or where a bulk of them are late in the deck, Sinbad will really start having a hard time. But one thing we can see from the gobs and gobs of card draw that Sinbad has is that Sinbad can also burn through his deck pretty quickly. Like every time I play Sinbad, I am like bordering on exhaustion or going into exhaustion and just running out of the deck. That's why being able to play Voyage Home and pull some of those attack cards back out. Even though you lose the bonus, being able to grab those attack cards again, it lets you reuse cards, so you're not having to draw new attack cards. I even have a lot of games where some of the most common cards for me to just discard if I have too many in the hand, or to use as a boost for maneuvering, is Riches Beyond Compare, even though it's just a 1. Because a lot of times I just don't want to draw those 3 cards because I'm already getting low on the deck, and I don't want to do that. The Porter has a few attack cards of his own, and then it's just going to be the versatile cards that he could use. You have really got to decide with Sinbad how much of those versatile cards you want to use for attacks, because you just don't have any other way to defend. So really, he has a very oddly built deck that makes him a little bit different. Not necessarily difficult, but just different from most. And if he can get a number of those Voyage cards in there early, he can start building up steam and become really, really powerful. However, if he doesn't get them out early, then he is not doing a whole lot. So this is someone that you definitely, if you're playing against, you need to get up on him early and make him have to burn a lot of the those high value versatile cards to be defense, so that he can't use those high value versatile cards as attacks early on while his voyages are still pretty low. And so that's a look at Sinbad. If you have any thoughts about that, you can go down there and leave your comments about Sinbad, or anything that I have had to say about Sinbad. You can go down there and leave a like if you like this, because that's always helpful. I've also got other characters that I have videos on, and you can go take a look at those.